We ain't gotta get hyped. We ain't gotta get loud. Y'all better get ready, set. Cause it's about to go down. Get jumping, get wild. Take a hand to your style. Keep speaking of us, that's how we go. Carry your word up. Get jumping, get loose. Give me the rock, give me the hype, give me the juice. When the ball hits a box in the air and the sub starts pumping. Get
Can't be serious. Da-da-da, da-da-da. Smoke Monday is gonna take a glory ride. Fields, dives, touchdown. The Buckeyes will survive.
No, you guys, and you fought, and you fought.
Get jumping, get loose. Give me the rock, give me the hype, give me the juice. When the ball hits a box in the air and the sub starts pumping.
It's blocked. NC State blocks the field goal.
The Wildcats take control of the Big Ten West.
How about these fighting Reese Davises right here? Huh, Joey Galloway?
All eyes have been on the College Football Playoff Committee today. For the first time this year, they have spoken. And that yelling you hear is either celebration or disgust, particularly from the state of Ohio. Mike Golic Jr., Christine Williamson, I'm Jason Fitz. For the next hour, if you're new to this, what we're going to do is get you all the reaction from everything you need to know that has happened across the landscape of the College Football Playoff speaking. We're going to interact with you. You guys can tweet us. You can get involved in it. It is the Rankings Reaction Show presented by Cheez-It. Turn your mic off on the computer, Mike.
You know what? Let me live, all right? Those are notifications coming in. Ohio's mad. The state of Utah would like a word at this point.
Okay, that is fair, but like Ohio split because some people in Ohio right now are celebrating and some people are mad, and it all comes from this. We want to get you the top of the rankings so that you can see what's happened. We'll get you all of them over the course of the next hour. But at the top, Alabama, Roll Tide, rolling in at number 1. At number 2, I can't imagine anybody in the room doesn't like this. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, coming in. At number 3 on this, losses don't matter to this committee. Clemson in at number 3, ahead of the number 4 team in all the land. That would be Ohio State, undefeated, but so's Trevor Lawrence's hair, apparently. At number 5, Texas A&M, despite the blowout loss, still sitting in at number 5 because the team they beat, Florida, sitting at number 6. That's your top 6. That's what all eyes were going to be on. Christine, any problems with the top 6 list that we have here?
I actually don't have any real problems with it. I think what we see is that the committee is taking very seriously head-to-head matchups because any head-to-head, if the team beat the team behind it, they're going to, like A&M doesn't make any sense ahead of Florida, but they are. And I'm not trying to offend you, Gojo, but like the fact that Notre Dame is ahead of Clemson, they didn't have T-Law. So they're taking head-to-head really seriously because we really don't have that many matchups when it comes to people that are CFP hopefuls. Oh God.
No, listen, I actually think that the Notre Dame Clemson proximity here makes an interesting point because you mentioned head-to-head clearly means enough. They looked at Notre Dame and said, very good football team, beat them in triple overtime. And we know there were pieces missing from Clemson, but a win's a win in that situation. What it's saying for the Clemson side, though, is clearly they're not looking at that and treating it like a loss. They're saying that we think if you had your starting quarterback, it's even more of a razor-thin margin, or maybe you win the thing. So to me, that is a value of Trevor Lawrence being presented there and saying, even what we normally call a quality loss really isn't a loss for you at this point.
Well, and to that end, Mike, you and I have done the mock process in Dallas. We talk about it all the time. And one thing that they're actually told for the committee is to factor in any players that were not available for a game. So this isn't just Trevor Lawrence. It's also 3 starters missing on the defensive side of the ball. Let's also be clear about some of the biases, though. I love to admit, I'm not saying biased. I just want everyone to know. Obviously, Mike had a tremendous career, academic All-American, playing at Notre Dame. It should also be noted that Christine has background with Miami, Clemson, and the entire Big 12. So it just depends on the moment.
I mean, the Big 12 has, I think it was 4 teams in the top 25, which I was really shook by.
Yeah.
That's actually really, there's only 10 teams in the conference. That's 40% of the conference is in the top 25, even though they're absolute garbage this season.
Wow. All right. I'm going to say, I was not expecting the heat there, but it is interesting as we look at all this. Most of what we look and dissect tonight is going to be about trying to create a realistic path for teams outside of this. I would be remiss if I didn't point out, because I didn't even say this, by the way. ESPN's college football Twitter account said this, that each of the last 4, make sure I'm reading this right, each of the last 4 national championships was ranked number 2 in the initial CFP rankings.
When's the last time Notre Dame won a playoff game? need help.
I mean, that's fine. Listen, I didn't
Just so
take
you
over
guys
the
know.
account yet. I'm just saying ESPN College Football, which is a great account at ESPN CFB, tweeted that useful information out, and I wanted to pass it along.
It's Rankings Reaction presented by Cheese. Mike Golic Jr., Christine Williamson. I'm Jason Fitz. Again, we'll be here all the way through the next hour, getting you caught up on everything you need to know. Part of the way we'll do this, and we'll separate the fighting, is by bringing in some expertise. And we'll do that right now in the form of our good buddy Tom Luganbill, who's joining us now. Lugs, thanks for the time, my friend. We appreciate you joining us. So let's just start. I mean, what was your biggest takeaway when you look at what the committee just told you? What surprised you?
Why in the world is Georgia in the top 10? How is Georgia in the top 10? They literally had a quarterback that should be playing at Columbia, okay? And no offense to Columbia. But here's one thing, though, that I want to say about the Clemson scenario. See, I don't think that loss had anything to do with Trevor Lawrence. If you look at what DJ Uiagalelei was able to accomplish in that game, I'm not so sure statistically Trevor Lawrence would have done anything different. That was all about the defense. That was about giving up explosive plays. That was about not being able to handle a mobile quarterback that made plays with his feet. So I see what the committee did there. I have no issue with it. I actually do think Clemson is a better overall team than Ohio State. And I think Clemson not being able to play this last weekend to get some of their defensive guys back, get back into the groove, is one of the reasons why Dabo Swinney is so upset that game got canceled. But I don't really have any beef with the top 4 or the top 6. I will say this. I've felt in years past that the first release of the rankings really didn't mean all that much because so much football was left to be played. There was so much left on the plate that things were going to work themselves out. However, this particular year, I do think it carries some weight because there are limited opportunities. The data points are different for each conference. And that, to me, speaks volumes because this committee has a difficult job when you're gauging some teams that have played 9 games versus some teams that have played 3 or 4 games. That's a very, very difficult task, far more difficult than it's been in the past. So Georgia not, being in the top 10, that is ludicrous. BYU being as low as they are, I think that's a tough one to swallow as well, were my 2 big takeaways.
And so I'm interested in that one because I think for a lot of people coming in tonight, Tom, BYU and Cincinnati were the teams to watch. And we've got BYU, like you said, much lower than people anticipated. But Cincinnati at 7, it sticks out right away because it looks like there's enough proximity. Is there a realistic path for them to actually get into this with their schedule as it currently stands down the stretch?
Well, I think there's a realistic path. I really do. The problem in all of this, and this is going to sound crazy because nobody would have said this 2 weeks ago, the problem is Northwestern. All right, so if you look at Northwestern, they beat Wisconsin. All right, look at the rest of their schedule. Unless they screw it up, they're going to go undefeated. Well, what if Northwestern, who, by the way, I think is a little bit overranked right now, but what if Northwestern were to beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, all right, and you've got a 1-loss Ohio State, an undefeated Big Ten champion Northwestern. You still have an undefeated football team in the University of Cincinnati, but you also have somebody out of the ACC in the Big Ten. Who's left out? So I still think Cincinnati, as impressive as they have been, and for me, from my eyes, I've had BYU. I've gotten to see them this year. They're legit. I was supposed to have Cincinnati. Their game got canceled, so I had an opportunity to study 3 games on them. I think they're all worthy, but I still think from a group of 5 perspective, they're going to need some help.
I was going to mention the fact that they probably needed some help. Heather Dinich was on Greeny's show earlier, and she said that they do not control their own destiny. They need absolute chaos in the Power Fives for that to happen. So what exact chaos needs to happen? Who do you feel like is going to fall out first or who could get out of the top 6 first?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Florida. We're going to expect for them to match up against Alabama in the SEC championship game. So let me just paint this picture for you in terms of, okay, what is the committee's worst nightmare? All right, I've already mentioned one scenario. That's Northwestern being a wrench in the works. What if you've got Clemson avenging, all right, they avenge their loss versus Notre Dame. We got 2 1-loss teams in Notre Dame and Clemson at the end of the ACC slate. Then you've got Alabama ends up beating Florida all right? But Texas A&M runs the table. So now you've got a one-loss Texas A&M, an undefeated Alabama, all right? Florida would be out of the mix, but you have two one-loss teams out of the ACC. What if Oregon doesn't have any games canceled and goes undefeated? So there are so many scenarios still at play here. But again, the one X factor in all of this is what games are going to be played, what games are going to be put on the shelf. Guys, we're running out of makeup dates. We're running out of time. So there's going to be limited opportunities, and you're going to have to make the most of them. And I truly believe when it's all said and done, the committee is going to come to a point where what if they have a 6 or 7 win Power 5 champion? How do they match that up versus an 11-game schedule for a one-loss Power 5 champion in another conference? That could get really muddy.
So stick there for a second, Luke, and with your Oregon, because for anyone that hasn't seen yet, and we'll get you the rest of the rankings in a moment, Oregon's at 15, and then USC is at 18. So you've got two teams in the Pac-12 that are trying to make a move.
First of all, USC should be 1 and 2.
Well,
Let's call that what it is.
Sure, but if you're those two
and
teams,
I got that this week, and they better play, by the way.
But is there some spot now where suddenly, if you weren't taking BYU's call or you weren't taking Cincinnati's call, like BYU and Cincinnati could use the Pac-12 as much as the Pac-12 could use them at this point, right?
Absolutely. There's no question. And another note on Oregon. If I'm Oregon, I'm going to Larry Scott and I'm saying, listen, every single 9 a.m. local kickoff you have, we want it. We want that noon Eastern window. We want to be seen on the East Coast. We want that East Coast media to see us. It's our only shot. They should be playing. If they asked them to play at 7 a.m., they should play at 7 a.m. And so if I'm Oregon, I'm doing everything above and beyond. I thought, and I saw Kalani Sitake's comments, and I know he didn't get into details. That was one of the biggest blunders, maybe in the history of college football administrative duties, what BYU did by turning down that Washington deal. That's ridiculous. They blew it big time because as impressive as BYU has been, as impressive as their point differential has been, they needed a big-time team on that schedule. And Washington was willing to do it, and I guarantee you other teams in the Big 12 are willing to do it too. And now that BYU saw themselves sitting at 14, maybe they'll change their tune a little bit.
As they should in this situation. And like, Tom, we mentioned it. Is that something you think the committee ends up kind of noticing and considering in all this? Because I know we all look at this and we all react pretty strongly because we've all watched BYU be dominant in this instance. But as you have a very real human committee measuring all these factors, like you said, in an uneven season, is the report and the idea that they're turning down work essentially in this spot something that resonates with a human group?
I think it has to. How can it not? And how can at least not from an optics standpoint rub you the wrong way? You know, I don't understand their logic and their thinking in all of this. And again, I've covered a BYU game. I've talked with their coaches. They know they've got a good football team. And Kalani Sitake said, we're not afraid of anybody, and they're not afraid of anybody. And I would agree with that. But you're going to have to go out and prove your worth versus some Power 5 teams, and you've got limited opportunities left. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you haven't seen Zach Wilson, you're missing out. He is a future first rounder. He's going to play himself right into the first round. He is that good. And from that perspective alone, at the very least, don't you think all of us as fans should at least get a Cincinnati BYU bowl game?
Oh, please give us that gift.
Luke, we appreciate you hanging out. We appreciate your brilliance. At some point, this is all going to make sense. But in 2020, everything you're describing in chaos feels like what we're going to get. That just feels like the way it's going to be. But I'm here for it. Luke, we appreciate you joining us, my friend.
Thanks, brother.
You bet, guys. Thanks for having me.
So let's get you guys caught back up. Obviously, Rankings Reaction presented by Cheez-It. Christine Williamson, Mike Golic Jr., I'm Jason Fitz. We've got the rankings. Again, we'll get 1 through 6 up here for everybody to be able to see. We've been going over that a lot. And Alabama's number 1. And I think the big controversy here for some is that Ohio State sits below Clemson. Texas A&M is at 5. I think we can all agree that that's cute right now, but it means nothing because Texas A&M has, Mike, the one thing that we know you're not allowed to have. We did our 10 Commandments last year, the 3 of us did, and one of them was thou shalt not get blown out. Texas A&M got that booty whooped smoked by Alabama. So they ain't in this conversation. Like, this is cute, but they're not going to the playoff, right?
You would think not in this instance. They've got the difficult distinction of being on the same side of the conference as Alabama, so a road to try and find revenge in the title game is out of the cards in this instance. And so I guess you keep them here on the off chance that Alabama does something and messes up.
But what matters more, a quality win or a quality loss?
Well, I think it depends on the context of a lot of other things, right? Like we've clearly seen, if you're of a certain stratosphere, and this is again where the human element of the committee comes in. In college football in any given year, there's like 3 real teams that can win a national title, right? Like we see that bear out in the playoff almost every year, whether it's Notre Dame getting blown out, Michigan State on certain years, what we saw last year with Oklahoma, like it all bears out every once in a while. So the college football playoff committee's gotten used to the groups that aren't going to make them look bad. And so when you're outside of that, when you're inside of that group, I should say, you get that quality loss kind of benefit of the doubt that a team like Clemson gets.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get you caught up on the rest of the top 10 in just a second. But first, we want to get to our week in review, Crunch Time edition. Crunch Time Moments brought to you by Cheez-It. And it starts a little bit of unnecessary roughness here. And this one had everybody sort of laughing. Always funny when you see Alabama. They're used to taking on defenders.
Oh, no. So bad.
Oh.
That was an actual
but he
crunch.
actually helped him up, though.
Yeah, but he also pushed him down.
Oh, he's got a great mustache. I wasn't ready for the mustache.
I mean, let's be real, Mike. This is a little like what it looks like when I get in your way, right? You just throw me down, but then you help me up afterwards because you feel a little bad about it.
A little bit, not too bad.
He had to have known that was a ref and not somebody on the other team.
It's a great mustache.
Yeah, but he should get extra points for the mustache. Let's take a look at the next one on list number 4 on our Crunch Time Moments. And this one is a little bit about, like, a little pun fun here. Cooler heads prevail. Oklahoma Spencer Rattler, phenom, going out there, and then, it just drops on him. Like, there's that moment where you know it's coming down and there's nothing you can do about it. He's using the wheels. He's getting out there, and then all of a sudden, maybe he was just extra thirsty, guys.
I mean, clearly, I feel like yeah, that sucks. That kid did not know. He didn't know that he was pulling on something that was actually movable. That's what happened. You know, you feel like you're grabbing something solid, and then you just pull down something. That sounds awful.
Is this not when we say that was probably the biggest hit he took in the game?
I mean,
a little
spot the lie. It's why I'm glad I'm not athletic, because that kind of stuff doesn't happen to you when you move slow.
If you're not athletic, what in the heck am I? All right, so
stagnant.
Let's go to number 3 on
Part
the
of
list.
The furniture.
And look, when your name is Smoke Monday, I'm just saying, when your name is Smoke Monday, you get on the list. Check this out.
It is picked off. That's Smoke Monday. And Smoke Monday is going to take a glory ride. Coast to coast. Monday. Oh, Monday.
Had to give Joe Tess a little love there because that call, just the way he says, Smoke Monday, just gets me hyped.
Did you guys know that his name isn't actually Smoke?
I mean, I figured it was probably a nickname, right?
Okay. Because at first I was like, dang, that's a really solid name, but his name is actually Quindarius.
You know what? But like, Smoke is a
my
great...
dreams you want to kill today?
I really thought it was his real name, and I was like, oh, that's a great name. And then I was like, hold on, let me just make sure this is his actual name.
You guys thought the birth certificate said Smoke.
Look.
Yes. I mean, it could. It totally could.
Gwyneth Paltrow's kid's name Apple. Let's not put anything outside the realm of possibility.
Exactly. His last name is Monday, so I was like, his parents were really just trying to beef this thing up.
That is true. So, I mean, listen, solid name overall. Having Joe Tess back in college football is awesome for those reasons. I love it.
All right, number 2 in our Crunch Time Moments. Get a little bit of love for the bad beat here. Tulsa, Tulane. This was, what a game. I mean, absolutely. The Hail Mary. Mike, you're used to this. You've called one of these in this exact situation.
No, I called this exact game. Oh. I was on the call for this with Matt Berry and Chris Button, and we were watching. Jason, this team scored no points Tulsa scored 0 points through 3 quarters and won this game with a final score of 30 points in their column.
Wow.
By the way, as he's trudging down the field, just a reminder, 6'4", 260, and he just outran everybody.
Zaven Collins, if you don't know the name, learn it. This guy is a future first-round draft pick.
I feel a little bad now that we played Joe Tess on the call and we didn't play.
Matt Berry actually went off on both of those calls in that. Juan Carlos Santana, so smooth on that one, I know.
I mean, how can we not? Juan Carlos Santana, when you talk about cool names, like, how can you not immediately throw in Juan Carlos
That catch was just
Santana?
like the ocean under the moon. It was incredible.
Man, all right, so let's get to the top one. And this is really just the absolute worst beat. Cincinnati. Bettors had their eye on this because Cincinnati was a 3-point favorite. And then what'd they do? They just laid down on the 1-yard line rather than go in for the win and give any chance that UCF was going to get the ball back. They instead sit down and they take the 3-point win. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why I don't gamble.
I was going to say, I feel like, see, here's the thing. Like, I don't know, Gojo, if this was ever a thing for you, but like athletes don't care about that mess. They don't care about your money. They don't care about your fantasy teams. They care about their personal play and their personal games.
Well, it's 100% true, and that's an interesting instance, that one and what we saw with Coastal Carolina, which is another team that's wholly disrespected by this round of rankings that we'll get to here in a few. But when Coastal was playing App State, and Buddy had a pick 6 that actually went for the over, I think, at that point and covered on the last play, I'm screaming, get down, because App State had no timeouts left. If you get down, you can end the game without any sort of nonsense. I understand 2 scores probably does that, but I heard Richard Johnson and Alex Kirshner on Split Zone Duo, great college football podcast, talking about Cincinnati's one of these teams that goes by the analytics book. And so in that instance, they're trying to use that so they can get out of this game without any sort of funny business from another offensive possession. It obviously didn't work out that way, but there's at least that mode of thinking behind this, much to the wailing and gnashing of teeth and people losing money.
And those are your crunch time moments on Rankings Reaction. In the meantime, let's get you some reaction to the rest of the rankings. Now, you see 1 through 6. We've shown it to you a few times. Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas A&M at 5, Florida at 6. Now, let's show you 7 through 10. If you're just tuning in, at number 7, Cincinnati, 8, Northwestern 8. Georgia with 2 losses at 9. Tom Luganville had a real problem with that earlier. And then one of the 74,000 schools that Christine Williamson represents, Miami at number 10. That's not a fact. You don't have to actually Google that. That's not accurate. I would say this. I have long since we started talking about college football, I feel like I've been the flag bearer for Cincinnati and why I think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I still stand by that. If there's anything we saw out of 1 week of rankings, I believe Cincinnati's headed to the playoffs. And I know Heather Dinich says they don't control their own destiny. But to me, if you play the schedule game, and this is everybody's favorite thing to play, if you look at Florida, they've got to get through Bama. I don't like the odds of that. So Florida all of a sudden has 2 losses. If you look at Clemson, Notre Dame, the rematch, the committee's already given Clemson so much love for a loss in this match that I believe that if Clemson goes out and thumps Notre Dame the next time, that's enough to put Notre Dame out of it. So all of a sudden, what you have now are 2 teams that make their way out of the top 4. Texas A&M had their butt kicked. They can't get in because they lost and they won't get the extra tick. That's all it takes to have the freedom to get Cincinnati in. I think Cincinnati's headed to the playoffs.
Okay, here's the thing.
That was good logic.
I feel like the fact that the committee has Notre Dame above Clemson in the first rankings, knowing that they have to match up against each other and that Clemson will most likely beat them because they have Trevor Lawrence back, means that the committee is giving them a reason to have them both in the top 4, right? Like, if not, then Notre Dame would be ranked behind Clemson or Clemson would be lower, but they have Notre Dame and Clemson at number 2 and 3 for a reason, in my opinion.
It's set up, and it's extremely difficult, Ro, because everything you just described for Cincinnati that's got to occur requires blowouts, right? Like, it requires a situation where it doesn't even look close when Clemson and Notre Dame are on the same field. It doesn't even look close when Alabama and Florida are on the same field, or Clemson gets beat again and has that second loss. So you're asking a lot to happen in that cauldron right near the top of all this. It's tough. I want it. Like, it's possible, and especially with this proximity, sitting here at 7, it's doable. It's just extremely unlikely at this point.
I still believe Alabama, Florida could be close, and Florida would have 2 losses. That would take them out of it. But yes, you're right. And I do believe that I'm just going to continually this year beat my head against the Charlie Brown wall while I continually say that Clemson's going to thump Notre Dame. I already said it once. I can't back down on that now.
That's fine. You've been wrong plenty before. You can go ahead and keep doing it.
Let's get you caught up on 11 through 15, too, because there's significance here. Number 11, Oklahoma. Number 12, Indiana. By the way, getting a lot of credit from this committee. The committee is showing you how much value they give that that win over Indiana for Ohio State. And number 13, Iowa State.
Exactly. This makes no sense. This is why I talk about the Big 12. Why are there so many teams that are like ranked in the top 25 in the Big 12? That's 40% of the Big 12.
If I'm BYU, I'm like, hold my near beer. I am mad about
what
this.
is above BYU?
I mean,
who's undefeated? Iowa State has 2 losses.
So this is a great question. By the way, Oregon at 15. That is significant. That is the highest of any of the Pac-12 teams. So Oregon is the highest of this. If I'm looking at this from BYU's standpoint, I understand they haven't played anybody. What I'm trying to do is figure out what this committee values. So in some cases, it seems like they value some head-to-head. In some cases, they seem to value who wasn't there. In some cases, they seem to value, who you've played and who you haven't played in the case of BYU. So it to me, very confusing. We'll add another expert to our panel here as we continue to break it down. Rankings Reaction, Christine Williamson, Mike Golic Jr. I'm Jason Fitz. Now, Greg McElroy joining us. And all right, you've heard what we've been saying about this, Greg. We appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us, my friend. So what in your eyes, what the heck does this committee value?
Well, let me just ask one question first. I don't know what any of y'all are wearing, so I put on a hoodie because I base my attire based on who I know I'm going to be talking to. So between you, Fitzy, and Gojo and Christine, I figured we're going casual tonight. Are we good with that? I just want to make sure I don't get a call from HR saying I was unprofessional.
No, we're good, baby. We are good. We're talking about practice out here, so we're good.
I mean, come on. I've got Santa Claus. I've got Santa Claus hoodie on, Greg. Like, I'm on brand here. It's all Santa, all hoodie.
Proud of you, Greg.
Yeah, I figured, I'm not putting the suit on again. I had one on this morning at 6:15 this morning. I'm done. I'm not wearing it again.
I'd be weirded out if you wore a suit here. Quite frankly, I'd be a little disrespected. So thank you, Greg.
So now, what's the committee thinking?
I always have shorts on, so I never wear a full suit. But fool you. The committee. First of all, I don't know about you guys. The biggest reaction that I was anxious about was where's Cincinnati, where's BYU? I think we were all really interested in that. BYU clearly has work to do. The good news is BYU does have scheduling flexibility because they don't have a game next week. They don't have a game on December 5th. And according to the people I'm talking to that have an extension to the BYU program, they are actively pursuing a game. Now, people have made a big deal, well, they didn't play Washington. That's because the Pac-12 reserves the right to withdraw from any game with as little as 48 hours notice in an effort to protect other Pac-12 matchups. So, for instance, don't be surprised this weekend if Washington's actually playing against Arizona State because Arizona State and Utah got canceled just a little while ago. So that's something that we need to definitely monitor. Can Cincinnati, who also has a hole in the schedule on December 5th, find a way to play a BYU team that clearly needs a resume booster? Or, let's take it one step further, guys, would Texas A&M be open to potentially pursuing something like that? And would the SEC even allow them to do something like that? I think that's the other fascinating thing, because they might be the other team that's kind of the fly in the ointment that could force their way in with a big win against a team also ranked in the top 7, like a team like Cincinnati.
Yeah, Greg, that was going to be my next question. This Texas A&M team in front of a Florida group whose only loss comes to Texas A&M, but we know Texas A&M didn't just lose. They got thumped when they played Alabama. That's the difficult part, is we rarely see that rewarded. So do you think that could sort of be a get-out-of-jail-free card for them in this instance then? Would that be enough to erase it?
It's one of those scenarios where, don't get me wrong, the performance against Alabama was a bad one, but it was so early in the year, I don't think the committee will forgive it. And the A&M Aggies aren't getting in unless things fall sideways for all the other contenders. But if chalk flies, let's say Alabama beats Florida, Notre Dame beats Clemson for a second time, Ohio State wins the Big Ten championship, and there's a 4th spot, and there's not really anyone else to consider, then A&M might actually find their way in. Also, that kind of depends on how they finish. They need some style points. The good news is we haven't seen them play in a while, but the last few times we have seen them, that's been a dominant outfit that's really controlling the line of scrimmage, that's running the football, that has a veteran quarterback, that has a defense that's improved every week since the Florida game. So I do think A&M is a team that if they got into the playoff, they could, in fact, be competitive. But I don't know if their resume is going to justify inclusion, barring an addition like a Cincinnati or someone like that to push them over the edge.
All right, let's talk about another scenario. Currently, Bama's at number 1, Ohio State at number 4. You're a Bama guy. Who would you want to see in the first round if Bama wins out?
It's a tough one. I would probably, if I were any of the top 4, I think those are the 4 best teams for sure. So Bama, if I were Bama, I'd probably want to play against Clemson, because Clemson right now is the team that I'm not 100% sure of on the defensive side. And I think Alabama here down the stretch is really going to try to impose their wills along the line of scrimmage. I think Notre Dame's probably a really tough matchup for Alabama, because Alabama has been a little susceptible this year to teams that want to control the line of scrimmage. The problem is I don't think Notre Dame has the firepower to keep up with Alabama if in fact it became a shootout. Ohio State's a team that just got torched for 491 through the year. I think that's going to be an outlier when we look at them 5 or 6 weeks from now. I don't think we're going to see a performance by the Ohio State defense that resembles how pathetically bad they were in coverage on Saturday. So I would expect an improved group there. So they'll be a team that'll be steadily ascending as the season goes along. So of the 4, the team that I think is most vulnerable at the moment is Clemson.
We've shown you guys 1 through 15. Let's flash up here 16 through 20. 16 Wisconsin, 17 Texas, 18 USC, 19 North Carolina, and 20 an undefeated Coastal Carolina. So, Greg, let's start with Wisconsin here. Their game was canceled today, which means that mathematically they won't play enough games to be able to play in the Big Ten Conference Championship game. Did we lose some great opportunity to see Wisconsin make a run, in your opinion?
No, I mean, that team was so exposed last week, and their inability to really do anything offensive. They moved the ball, but they just made so many self-inflicted mistakes. So I think that Wisconsin's a team that's probably going to have their best years down the road. I mean, Graham Mertz is a young player. They still have a few pieces they need to figure out. They're not super dynamic at running back like they've been in years past. So I actually thought them being at 16 was a bit of a reward and a little bit unnecessary, frankly. I'd have them significantly lower. They were probably one of the teams that was the most overrated, in my opinion, based on what we saw throughout the 1 through 25.
I mean, speaking of rewards, we can look on the other side of that one. Northwestern at 8 felt a little rich for a lot of people's taste. Are you looking to make any more bulletin board material for Pat Fitzgerald and have them be the Fighting Greg McElroys next week, or how did you like that ranking?
Well, I mean, if he had a bunch of guys like me, they'd be dominant. So I don't know if I'd want to give them that type of credit. No, here's my thing. Like, I heard a lot of people complaining about Georgia being at 9. I've heard a lot of people complaining about Northwestern being at 8. Who the heck are you going to put there? Like, seriously, I mean, who has a resume that can stack up? Because if you look at teams, Northwestern's 5-0. They've done what they're supposed to do. They're dominant on the defensive side. They're the one team that I feel like can legitimately win exclusively with their defense. And I think they're improved at quarterback too, with Ramsey now in the mix, and they've just taken such strides there. So I think Northwestern's appropriately ranked. But you get beyond them, 9 through, say, 15. I mean, you can stack them any way you want. The team that I'd have at 9 would be Oklahoma, because I feel like they're hitting their stride at the right time. But then you could also make an argument, well, Iowa State beat Oklahoma. Shouldn't they be ahead because of the head-to-head? Well, I mean, yeah, you can make that case, but they also lost to Louisiana. Then you can make a case for BYU. They're undefeated. Why aren't they at number 9? Because they haven't played anybody. Their best games against Boise, and that was without the starting quarterback. So, I mean, every team right now between 9 and 15, they have warts. So if you're going to go with the lesser of many evils, go with the team that's at least been there and been competitive while being there in the past, and that's a Georgia team that at least did find their quarterback last week. So who knows? Maybe with JT Daniels at the helm, they'll be a better team in the weeks to come.
Greg, as always, we appreciate you hanging out with us, my friend. The hoodie looks great. Next time, no shirt. Let's just see where things go. All right, that's right.
Oh my goodness!
I thought you were going to pop the top there for a second.
Go to HR.
Yeah.
I can't hear anything you guys are saying. My earpiece came off. So if you're trashing me, I don't appreciate it.
Love you, Greg. We'll see you later.
Love you, buddy. It's great work from Greg.
The great Greg McElroy.
See y'all.
I am interested. He mentioned Georgia and JT Daniels. Honestly, this feels like a very similar but different version of I wonder how much they looked at that and went, oh, yeah, that's what we expected all along from this Georgia outfit. Because you remember a few years ago when we did this with SC, right?
Right.
When all of a sudden we had Sam Darnold come in after 3 games, and that looked like one of the baddest teams on the block. But they had 3 losses at that point. You couldn't put them in. If the committee looks and says, all right, Georgia's got a couple losses, but did you see this JT Daniels? Pretty good kid.
And let me also point out, I think one of the human elements of what the committee is up against in reality is we've had 2 guests that I respect the hell out of, and Tom Luganville and Greg McElroy. 2 guys that not only work on a lot of games, they watch a lot of games, they absorb a lot of film, they take this job very seriously. One of them said, what the heck is Georgia doing in the top 10? And the other said, I don't really have a problem with Georgia in the top 10.
Yeah.
And it shows you that I think one of the more subjective parts of what the committee goes through that we forget about is even great football minds can disagree about what looks like great football. Now, let me ask you, from a conspiracy theory standpoint, not necessarily conspiracy
This
theory.
is, by the way, if anyone's new to this show,
my
this
goodness.
is Jason's hallmark. This is where he makes his money. Is conspiracy theory is his buzzword anytime he wants to disguise one of his bad
It's an
takes
actual
as
theory.
something that could potentially come up here. So.
I like to think of myself as a fecal disturber, right? I'm just disturbing I'm stirring.
Okay.
I'm stirring. That's all.
Poop.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just going to stir the pot here a little bit. Is there some possibility that Georgia gets highly ranked because it leaves enough equity in front of some of these teams to have good opponents? Like Indiana stays high so that they can justify Ohio State's win, and the higher the Georgia is, the better it looks for any team called Florida that beat Georgia. Like, is there some moment there where maybe they overvalue some of these other teams to continue to justify the valuation they have on our top 4 team?
I mean, like we joked before coming on here and said that, Northwestern being ranked 8th clearly means they want Ohio State to have another quality win when we look at this at the end of the season. But in all actuality, I think it's probably closer to what I think it was Tom Luganville brought up. Like, the uneven amount of games, the hodgepodge of schedules thrown into the mix, leagues starting at different times. Like, at some point, you only have so much to go off here in a super eye test reliant year like this. And so maybe this was just what they got when they threw spaghetti at the wall and tried to see what sticks.
I love Christine's look of disgust and confusion all at
It's
once.
not disgust. I'm just saying, in my mind, I think your conspiracy theory isn't necessarily a conspiracy theory, right? Like, the committee has to put teams in the top 25 if they look at, let's say, Clemson, right? And they have an L to Notre Dame, but they beat other teams in the ACC. It's better to have more teams in the ACC in the top 25 so that they can justify the fact that Notre Dame and Clemson are in number 2 and 3, right? Like, that makes sense to them. It's what we saw. We've seen this every single season. Last season, it was like, why the heck are all these? I'm gonna say this. You guys are gonna be like, oh my goodness, here she goes again. Why are all these Big 12 teams in the top 25? But I was saying the whole entire time, the reason that the CFP committee has 5 teams in the top 25 right now, I think they had up to 6 that were in the top 25 rankings, is because they're trying to figure out a way to get Oklahoma into the top 4, and that's what eventually happened. So I feel like that's what the CFP committee is doing.
Yeah, so it becomes interesting what ends up being predictive as far as where we look in a lot of this. One of the stats, basically, one of the dirty secrets is we did all this to get away from the BCS computers, and every year it's almost the same top 4 that the BCS computers would spit out in these situations.
Right. Yeah.
It also goes along with strength of resume. So what the stat that determines how likely the average top 25 team or average team would be to be able to complete your schedule the way that you have so far. Number 1 right now in strength of resume, by the way, Northwestern, which is very interesting to me. It's 1 Northwestern, 2 Alabama, 3 Notre Dame, and 4 Cincinnati there. Texas A&M coming in at 5, Miami at 6, Ohio State 7, on and on down the list. BYU, for what it's worth, at 10 in strength of resume right now. So for all the talk about their strength of schedule, which is we know is very weak in this instance, but strength of resume, the way that you have gone out and dominated is what strength of resume rewards. Also game control, how well you were in control there. BYU 6th in game control. So what, the win probability, things that factor into that, how secure was the game. And so all of these things are designed to kind of cut through what looks like BYU's schedule. Bottom line is, like they said, they got to pick up the phone and get to work on this.
That entire segment, I only heard 2 things. 1, tremendous professionalism from Christine, because she's gone this far and not talked about Miami being number 10. And number 2, Junior saying that I have bad takes. I have no idea what that's about. All right, it's rankings reactions. So, Christine, let's have a little bit of fun.
Okay, this is ranking reactions, but now we're going to react some ranking. Or wait, that doesn't make any sense. Now we're going to rank some reactions.
Messing it up. Let's go.
Oh, I love this one.
East Carolina took a trip to Philly to take on Temple, and Tyler Snead took it to the house. Here he goes, all the way down for the TD, and then he decided, oh, let me go hang out with the
no.
Like, why?
Chairs.
What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
I mean, it's a great idea. Those chairs look comfy as hell. You just got to execute better.
I don't
you
think
think
they
he was
look
trying
comfy at all. That does not look comfortable.
Those chairs don't look comfortable?
No.
That's
And
VIP at the link.
You know what's actually hilarious? When I was looking at the clips for this segment, today OTL did a segment about people who were doing like ridiculous celebrations and got seriously injured. Like, Colton Bellinger did that this year when he dislocated his shoulder. So like they went through a long list of players and athletes that had broke legs, dislocated things, like literally been taken out for the season. I'm like, this kid could have seriously gotten injured.
I honestly worried more about Spencer Rattler than I did this kid in this clip we showed him going over to the
But Spencer Rattler didn't choose that. This kid chose. He's like, I'm gonna stage dive with no, like that'd be like me being on stage during a concert and then being like, Jason, with nobody there to catch me.
He's on the show now. They've shown that clip on TV right there. Let's build the brand. Good for that kid.
He did that on purpose. All right, number 4. If you know anything about me, then you know that I absolutely hate turnover gifts. I'm over them. Miami started it. Everybody else is a biter. Anyways, Oregon State, they decided that when they get a turnover, they're going to pull out a chainsaw.
Woo! I'm sorry, Christine. You can hate on other turnover stuff all you want. In general, I think most of it is overdone. The audacity to bring a full-on chainsaw out there. Now, I'm a little bummed that the blade's not on there because we need to go out here and if we're going to talk about it, be about it. That being said, this is the best sideline turnover celebration in the country.
I mean, 2 things. Number 1 is a fanatic of Halloween. Like, if you can't chase people out of your lawn with a bladeless chainsaw, then you're not doing your Halloween display right.
Dear
I mean,
God.
that's number 1. Yeah, like you want to make them. That's what you do. Like, isn't that what you do in your house?
They should call Jason Fitz and his wife have a room full of mannequins at their house.
It wouldn't be the first time.
I would call the cops. This smells like pre-crime.
Call the police or like what were you about to say there?
Call the police.
Second, the band Perry had a single called Chainsaw, so I'm all in for all of this. Like, play it next time around that celebration. Let's get some money.
All right, number 3. This is PJ Fleck talking about what he did to help his team bounce back from.
I read him a book, Everyone Poops. I know that sounds crazy, but because we didn't play very well. But poop can be used as fertilizer if you grow. In Minnesota, we got lots of farms. And the poop is actually manure. It can help with crops and the best fruit and vegetables. And that's what we talked about last night. You know, so you guys know me.
What in the world? What?
Like sometimes, Mike, you know this, sometimes you're on radio and you think you've got the right analogy and you get down the rabbit hole and you realize that you're no longer, like you don't know where you are. I would like to think that's what it was.
No, I think this is just who PJ Fleck is. Like, you guys remember before they played in the Cotton Bowl that one time, he pulled a piece of cotton out of his pocket he had in there for like 2 weeks. That's just how this guy lives. Now, he sourced what I believe is like the #1 bathroom book of all time. Like, isn't that the one that everyone puts out in their bathroom for you to like read when you're in there? Like, I'm not scrolling Instagram the entire time?
I mean, if you're never mind, I'm not going to say anything.
Can we just not with the reading while you're in the bathroom? Like, just keep, move about your day.
What?
Like,
toilet time is the last bastion of American freedom. I'm supposed to be in there enjoying my time.
You're a single man. Like, what are the kids bothering you?
Have you never read this book, Everybody Poops?
No, I've never read Everybody
Poops. That
Poops.
is a classic book. First of all, from your childhood, and if you didn't read it in your childhood, then you read it in your adulthood. You should have read it.
I'm old. Like, they barely had books when I was a kid. Number 2, I'm an in and out sort of guy. I'm not going to sit in there and read a book. Like, no.
Okay.
You don't sit in it.
No. Anyways, everybody does poop, everybody. Kids, everybody poops, all right? I don't know if his analogy really worked, but everybody does poop. Apparently, it's also used for crop and manure, and that's not a good analogy
So,
at all.
like, Mike, who's bothering you in your normal part of your house that you have to read in the bathroom? Like, you live alone.
I'm just saying.
You don't even have dogs.
That's the perfect place to read.
It's peaceful. It's where I do my thinking. You don't have your best thoughts in the shower when you're pooping. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean,
I agree.
Like, I would get it if Mike was married with like 6 kids and 18 dogs. I'd understand. Like, I'd understand why your dad. I know your family well enough. I understand why your dad would want to go in the bathroom for like a half an hour, just get away from you guys. Why you?
Listen, it's just nice in there. Like, sometimes I'll light a candle. It's all good. Why
you have a nice house?
Yeah, and I got a nice bathroom.
Okay, now we go on to number 2, Indiana lost to Ohio State last weekend, and here's head coach Tom Allen after the L.
I want you to listen to me carefully. Eyes on me. We ain't feeling sorry for ourselves. We didn't play our best football. You know it and I know it. But you didn't quit. You didn't quit. You fought them. You got character. You got something to you. There's a lot of football being played. A lot of football being played. You understand me? Yes, sir. We ain't come here to be close. And I'm ticked off by the result. But I'm proud of you guys. And you fought. And you fought. And you fought. You stay together. You understand me? Yes, sir. You stay together. This team is special. There's special things ahead of you. You understand me? Yes, sir. Special things ahead of you. That's the truth. You can stay together. I love this football team, man. You got no idea. You're good and bad.
I want to say this.
You're crying. So
I love Tom Allen. I think he's the coach of the year in college football.
Okay,
I think this Indiana team is legit. Like, it's not 9-win Indiana from a couple of years ago. This is a really good football team that went out there and showed it. But after that last segment, all I can think about is a very heated Tom Allen in that locker room, cold stare at his players, and everybody poops, man. Everybody poops. This team poops.
I was like, why are you laughing so hard? Like nothing has happened.
I love this team, man. I love it because everybody poops.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, like I guess that doesn't work at all.
It actually works with the theme of this show because I'll never forget the one episode where we were there to work and all of a sudden there was no toilet paper at Mike's house.
Oh,
we were like there was none. Mike, we had to send somebody out to get toilet paper. So
I got the Ultra Roll now. That thing's like 9 rolls in one.
If you thought we were going to get back on the rails, apparently we.
What's number 1, Christine?
Let's talk about more poop. Okay. We got number 1. Oh, this is like my favorite thing that happened last weekend. Why does this always happen? Where I'm trying to be normal and this is like going off on a laughing fit.
Just
okay, how about we talk to some sound regarding the Fighting Reese Davises?
How would that impact the way you look at Northwestern as it pertains to a shot at a playoff spot?
I've been watching Northwestern play, and honestly, I mean, they got a bunch of Reese Davises out there running around.
A bunch of Reese Davises running around. Yeah, we are a bunch of Reese Davises. I hope they don't cut that.
Morning, Reese. Coach Reese. Oh my God, Reese Davis with the catch. My name is Riley Reese Davis.
Not bad for a bunch of Reese Davises.
All I see is a bunch of Reese Davis. Head coach Reese Davis. Woo! That's Reese Davis 1, Reese Davis 2.
The problem is, too, what I hate is Reese Davis is a great guy.
Yeah. He's a great guy. Nice catch, Reese. Way to go.
Because I'm looking at a bunch of bad Reese Davis.
I love it. That was my favorite thing.
Bunch of bad Reese. Shut your mouth. Like, I'm glad they said it at the end. Reese is a lovely man, and being called a Reese Davis is not like the worst thing you could call somebody.
We work with a lot of great people. I will say last year, traveling around with Game Day, getting to spend some time shadowing Reese, I don't know that I've had anybody take more time out of their incredibly busy time to just sit back and show me how he does what he does. Like, I learned so much watching Reese Davis for a year. That being said, that's hysterical. Like, that's on Joey. That's all on Joey.
That's also, like, very offensive. If I had somebody say they got a bunch of Christine Williamsons out there, I'd be like, oh, so they must be ballers. Like, who are you talking about?
Because that team's nice as hell.
Exactly. Like, what does that mean?
Also, you were an athlete. Let's just be real. Like,
I was going to say, by the way, the Oklahoma drill ESPN wants is Reese Davis versus Jason Fitz.
Oh, God, yeah. No, he'd kill me. He'd kill me, but then, you know what? He'd help me up. Like, that's the hardest part. Like, he would help me up afterwards, and then he'd be like, hey, let me show you a trick. That's how good he is. All right, so it's Rankings Reaction presented by Cheez-It. Mike Golic Jr., Christine Williamson. I'm Jason Fitz. We've been having a lot of fun, but this is all about reactions. And to the rankings, particularly, we've shown you up through the top 20. Let's get everybody caught up on 21 through 25. We are Marshall at 21, undefeated. At number 22, Auburn. Number 23, Oklahoma State. Number 24, Iowa. And number 25, Tulsa. If I'm Tulsa, I'm fired up about that at 25, below a lot of teams that have much bigger brands. But if I'm Tulsa, I'm thinking I'm 5-1 and I'm taking care of business the best way I possibly can. I know it's been strange for them, but still, that hurts.
Tulsa's been a roller coaster ride this year. For anyone that looks at that, they're undefeated in the American right now. They're going to be a team that goes up and likely faces Cincinnati in that championship, who sits at 7 here. 4 of those wins have come in double-digit comebacks, and that last one we showed the highlight of them against Tulane was with their 3rd-string quarterback in the game at this point. So it's been an insane run for that team. I understand the gripe there. If you watch them, it's been such a Jekyll and Hyde team from half to half that I'd be hard-pressed to tell you if they're actually really good or really bad.
But if I'm Cincinnati, I need them to continue to stay relevant because that's going to be another opportunity for a win, right?
And what becomes significant there is we know the highest ranked Group of 5 team is in line for that New Year's 6 bid. So when you're looking at them, when you're looking at Coastal Carolina ranked at 20 right now, and obviously Cincinnati sitting up at 7, these are all the things that are at stake. We know our focus tends to be the CFP or bust, but that's a big distinction. It's a big time opportunity on a big stage for these Group of 5 schools to go out there and showcase against Power 5 teams.
To that point, though, if my theory works and somehow Cincinnati gets in the playoff, then if you're Coastal Carolina, you got a shot at the New Year's 6, right? Because it's
and they should. Coastal is legit, man. Grayson McCall's been balling. This another one, legitimately good team that should have been ranked for most of the year. It took them too long to get there, and glad to see them getting respected.
Exactly.
Now.
Speaking of legitimate, nothing's more legitimate than Mike Golic Jr. giving us his Thighsman, and that's as in
we love to see it. We love to see it.
Let's get some juice in here right now. Jerome Johnson, Indiana defensive lineman, showing up again on the pinball INT right here. Justin Fields, weird, uncharacteristic turnover game, but bounce, catch by a guy in Jerome Johnson who was also renowned for wearing dangly earrings on the sideline and being a true baller in this situation.
I mean, those are quick hands. That ball looks like it's going by him. To get his hands up that fast for a big boy, I like that.
That's a big-time athlete.
I mean, I love the dangly earring point out because do you know that's like a thing? If you rock a dangly earring, you got all the juice.
Yes.
So we're not at all surprised.
Confirmed juice in this case right now.
So if I were to rock dangly earrings, confirmed juice in this room.
I can't. Do you know what the dangly earrings look like up close, Fitz? I could not imagine you with a dangly earring on.
I know what I'm going to spend Black Friday shopping for.
I'm telling you, just leave that to the big fellas.
I can actually see Gojo. I can see you wearing.
Let's get to this one next. Damian Nixon right here with what I am dubbing officially, and I can't believe we've done this before, the thick 6. Watch him switch hands in the middle of that play, saucing Sean Clifford and taking it to the end zone. Thick 6.
Athleticism. That's athleticism.
And speed, too. The little stutter step.
He changed speeds on him
the
like
little
that.
stutter step in the
What a blessing. You should be wearing 0, by the way, young man. Talk to your equipment manager and here, do right by God and the rest of us.
Put a little crossover and everything. Stutter.
Well, allow me to introduce myself.
What happened to the guy that just got juked?
It's Clifford right there. He's running in the back in great shame because he met a greater athlete on the field and he was thoroughly embarrassed by that player right there. Chuck Clifford's a great player. Certainly wish well for him right there. But every once in a while, we come up with a force that we cannot possibly contend with.
Exactly.
Whew.
You love to see it.
All right, let's get some Abilene Christian thickness in here. Look at how they
phrases I never thought I'd hear.
Look at how they celebrate in this instance. So nice run, on the screen right here. But then watch, just annihilating the dance moves here and then annihilating strength coach sleeves. Which, first off, I can't believe what looks like a thick strength. I mean, based on build alone, I'm going to say strength and conditioning coach. The fact that he had sleeves at all, they're just helping.
What kind of shirt is that? That it can just, is that how shirt, I've never tried to rip my sleeves off my shirts, but are they that easy to just rip off?
Hulk Hogan did it and just ripped the whole shirt off.
Yeah, but I would imagine that was like a breakaway shirt.
Yeah, it was torn in the back.
What's going on with this?
These men are just endowed with strength, and it's spelled with an F, because you know it's real that way.
Oh, good.
By the way, can we get another beauty in this one here? This is a photo series now.
Yeah, this is your fave.
Behold, a golden god. His name is Liam Dobson. He plays football at the University of Maine, and he's perfect in every way.
Glory!
Are we sure that's not you, Mike? What did you do last weekend?
I could only hope to be both confident enough to display my midsection like that in public and rock number 69 while doing it.
Anybody that follows you on Instagram knows that you're not far off. I mean,
no, listen, especially now I'm quarantined thick. But can we go next level on this? Can we take the helmet off this beauty? Because I want you guys to see he's not just a man of girth. He's also a man of class.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Like, again, you gotta put product in that. That doesn't happen by accident. I've had a mustache since 2013, and I can assure you that you don't just roll out of bed like that.
It's beautiful.
By the way, Mike, what was he spiking there?
What was he spiking there?
Yeah.
Well, I would say if you go back and
The
look.
turkey!
Oh, spiking a turkey.
Oh, he's a big meaty man.
God.
Oh, I am.
Oh, God.
Abilene Christian
what is
thickness
stopping
and a
you?
big meaty man. That's what I've gotten out of today's show.
Men, what is stopping
There's
you from
so
looking
much
like
going on.
that?
Well, me, genetics, and a lot of candy. Like just, I mean.
Hey, we got way more important breakers in the house.
Let's get them.
Speaking of Thanksgiving, let's rank all of the things. Oh, wait, no. Thanksgiving's biggest misses because it's 2020 and we're going to miss a million things, right?
Oh.
All right, the first thing. Actually, should I start from 5 and go to 1 or should I go to 1? Everybody can see everything, so I might as well start at 1. All right, number 1, family. It's 2020. We know that a lot of people aren't going to be home with their families. So, yeah, that's sad. And hopefully your families are safe. And, you know, just don't go see them because COVID-19 is ravaging everything.
Be safe.
Next, we got the Black Friday fights. And this is not going to happen in 2020 because people are social distancing.
I'll say this.
Thank goodness, right?
We don't condone violence on this show. Full stop. That being said, I spend almost every weekend after this week looking on the internet for videos of people fighting over 50-inch plasma systems.
Oh my
Which
goodness.
I respect, but I'll tell you, like, I love getting out in the thick of it. One of the things that I will miss the most, like, I am the guy that has gone out multiple times. Like, we've gone out multiple times at midnight. We've stayed out for 24 hours. Like,
what?
I want, like, not because I need anything. I love the energy and the atmosphere of Black Friday. Like, it's just, like, it's best to go out when you don't need anything, so you can watch everybody else get chaotic and just like sip on, you know, your like ice cream, you know.
It does make me think of Jingle. It does make me think of Jingle All the Way, which is a super underrated Christmas movie.
Have you ever stumbled, because that's your favorite thing to do on Black Friday, have you ever stumbled upon a brawl?
No, but I have been in, like, years ago when they opened I think it was Opry Mills Mall at the time in Nashville, when they opened it right at like midnight. Oh, yeah. We were squared up at the door ready and everybody ran. And I don't even know what we were running for. They were giving away free stuff or something, which is all it takes for me. And yeah, straight sprint. I was all in for all of that. Yeah.
All right,
I love Black Friday. I love a deal.
The one more thing that I want to talk about that was on that list of things that we're going to miss for 2020 Thanksgiving is the airports, because this turned into a whole like 18-minute conversation yesterday on our pre-show meeting. And first of all, before you guys say anything, I just want to talk about the worst possible airport in the world that I've ever been to is Kansas City. Worst airport ever. Have you guys been to Kansas City Airport?
I mean, Kansas City is like weird because you're like out and you got to go back through security to get to the next
so that's
gate.
the worst.
Yeah.
But Gojo wants to talk about his favorites.
I'm just saying the one thing I miss is being like we all do. We travel for the job, being a connoisseur of certain airports, and I'd be remiss if I didn't get love to one of the hidden gems. It's on the smaller side of the airport scale. Minneapolis got it going on. The bathroom in the main concourse is award-winning. It's got a plaque out in front of it. Those things are clean enough to eat off of. Also, shout out. Atlanta redid their bathrooms a while back. There's a beautiful mural, I think, in Terminal B.
Of all the places you don't want to spend a lot of time in the bathroom, I would think, Christine, at least back me up on this one.
I would totally agree with that.
Feels like,
I would totally agree with that. I also am unsure that it's a good idea to eat anything off of any bathroom.
Again, like, would I actually do it? Yes. But, like, would I advise it? No, in these situations. But you guys can't tell me, like, there are a few things in life more satisfying than a good airport, right? Like, Raleigh-Durham.
Detroit. I love Detroit.
Detroit's the Mecca. Detroit's number one. The McNamara Terminal is a triumph of innovation. It's got a P.F. Chang's in there, which is incredible. They did slight nature, God, and me by removing the Mrs. Fields and the custom peanut butter and jelly place from the one end of the concourse.
Well, they were trying to help you out a little bit. Plus, they've got the train that goes the whole way, too. Like, that's easy.
What's the most important thing that you absolutely need to make it a good airport?
I mean, for me, I would say a quality bathroom, but I could be
I would
wrong
say
on
the
this.
same thing.
No, I want variety of food options, especially because I don't know how long my layover is going to be. I want to make sure that there's plenty of coffee places and a variety of food options.
So this one's an important one for me, too, because the airport regiment matters a lot to me. Do you guys have a go-to airport snack when you go there? Because we also know prices are a difficult thing in there. You want to kind of be efficient. Do you have a go-to airport snack?
I do. I always get gummies of some sort, and then I've talked to Fitz about this. I need something to balance out my sweet, so I have to have a salty. So I typically go for like a chip or something like that because that's consistent. You can get that from every single airport. Like you said, it's very overpriced, and then I get some type of caffeine.
I'm cheap. I take almonds with me, but I always get coffee from inside the airport because I can't take. So yeah, the coffee's my big thing.
Bare Naked. I don't even care if it's like a free ad for them. Bare Naked granola bites. I get the sea salt and dark chocolate ones every single time. I can visualize it right now. You know how you go through game planning? I got to visualize. Yeah, the top 6 is up here. It's great. I'm really excited again for Notre Dame in this spot here, but I'm getting those Bare Naked granola bites.
If you haven't tried it, I would tell you should upgrade to Cheez-It, the snack mix.
Oh my God.
Snack mix is fire.
Well, I was going to say,
fancy.
I'm back on the white cheddar grooves train over here.
Yeah.
And shout out to Nicole who works with us here. Cheez-It mac and cheese. There are crumbles of Cheez-Its on top of
Because
this.
it's Thanksgiving week. We got mac and cheese. Last year we got a whole like layout, but this year we held it down with the mac and cheese.
You guys saw the top 6 there. You can see the entire top 25 every single Tuesday with us as we will be back from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern every week to react to everything you got. We'll try and continue to give you the best experts we possibly can. For Christine Williamson, for Mike Golic Jr., for everybody behind the scenes that makes this show happen, I'm Jason Fitz. We genuinely appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with us. This has been Rankings Reaction presented by Cheez-It. God, this snack mix is a delight.
The kiss.
Now, Kiev.